Well, here we are once again, zombie fans, and Daryl Dixon, The Walking Dead, is back. And I guess you guys are probably wondering, at least some of you, is this show worth watching? Well, I finally got to watch the first episode, and so far, it's interesting, I suppose. Just to give the quick synopsis, Daryl has floated all the way, in some ways, to Europe. Now, first burning question, you're probably wondering, how in the hell did he get over to Europe? When at first, when we see the episode, he's like on a dinghy, like, or a raft, like upside down, like maybe even canoe. It looks more like a dinghy, and it's just floating, making its way. And then you see land, and then he makes it ashore. And he's in Old Paris, and I must say the landscapes look pretty damn awesome. Okay, so they get props for all that. The landscapes in Europe are nothing but fantastic. I mean, it makes shooting like in the U.S. just a joke. He quickly gets to it. He's scrounging. He's getting some supplies and so forth. And it was kind of burning my head. Like, okay, so he floated across the Atlantic on a small little boat or whatever. Well, as we get further into the episode, we're gonna go and get into spoilers. So let's just get rocking and rolling. Apparently he was on a ship, a very large cargo ship. So even after 12 plus years into the apocalypse, there are still large, I guess, cargo ships still doing its thing, or at least this one is. And furthermore, it has a woman on board. And we're going to get to names eventually. I got to be honest, my French blows. I'm going to butcher these people's names left and right. So correct me in the comments. I'm sure you're going to love doing that. But anyways, this woman, they're doing some kind of testing on zombies. It's not the first time we've seen this, but it is a theme that we've seen replayed over a time or two. And so we're not sure exactly what they're up to, but Daryl was on this ship, and this chick is pissed. She's definitely one of the most important people. I think it's for this group called The Cause or whatever. And anywho, she's pretty much, scolding the hell out of this captain for basically losing Daryl. And I thought she was going to kill his ass, but she didn't. She let him live. It was very surprising, at least for now, until he messes up maybe again. So I guess at some point, Daryl got into a scuffle. Things went wrong. I thought it was kind of the running joke throughout the episode. It was I think Isabel asks him, she's the nun from the monastery, and she says, oh, how did you get here? And he says, makes a string of bad choices or something like that. And he asks her in reciprocation, what brought you to the monastery and the nunhood? And she said, a string of good choices. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two kind of level each other out as we move into it. I found out there's only 6 episodes to Daryl Dixon. I thought that kind of surprising. It seems very short. Not that they can't get a good story out in 6 or maybe 5.5 hours. After the commercials were removed and everything else. But I don't know, it just kind of seemed kind of short. I mean, they're probably planning on a season 2, more than likely. Probably trying to feel it out first, see how things are going. Right now it's holding an 8.2 on IMDb, and 2.3 thousand reviews. It's not a ton, but of course it did just debut, so maybe it has some time. So Daryl must have like the worst luck in the world, or at least the writers give him the worst luck, I guess, in the stories, as he runs into almost immediate trouble after landing in Old Paris. And basically, he finds a couple people alive. It seems like they have some food. He's willing to trade to get a little bartering going on. And next thing you know, this guy that's pretending to be blind and his what could have been daughter or just young girl who's just, they found each other and they're surviving together. Basically, double-cross Daryl and knock him out. And then the next thing you know, a vehicle shows up with about 3 other guys. And these guys look like they're bad news. Fast forwarding it out, it looks like one of the guys is taking the young female back to do something maybe not so awesome, and then all hell starts to break loose, and Daryl finally gets put into action, gets these kills, I think 1 or 2 of them, and then leaves the last one alive for the moment, and then the chick goes over and stabs him, like right, in the chest. Totally takes him out. Well, it just so happens that the guy that she just stabbed in the chest or whatever, the older brother is pretty much like the lead villain bad guy in the local area. And we're not sure of his motives yet exactly, because, I mean, he's definitely a bad guy, but it seemed like he might have had some honor and some code, because he had left this monastery standing and alone, and the nuns, and it looks like they hadn't bothered him for so long. But this nun who's traveling, who's kind of been following Daryl, her name's Isabel, she basically finds Daryl and brings her back to the monastery. And as we fast forward into it, these nuns have been surviving ever since, I guess, the breakout or whatever. And we start to learn there's some oddities about, the good Lord and the good word. Apparently one of their main priests died and turned, and they're keeping him locked up. They're thinking that they're waiting for his soul to be released, but they're just letting him, rot. And he's in there, and he's got his arms coming out of the window of the door that the room he's in. And I don't know, Daryl's already started to get a weird vibe. At first it was cool because Isabel was taking care of him, his arm. How about the gnarly acid walker or whatever? I can't remember exactly what they called him yet, but basically when he was in that small clothing warehouse or whatever, and the thing touched him and immediately started burning his skin, and all of them, it seemed like they had acid or something in their bodies. That was pretty crazy. And so it seemed like the only way to fix that was actually burning it. So they had to actually cauterize those wounds, so I guess they wouldn't spread and turn Daryl into a nasty monster or whatever. And let's also not forget about Codron and basically his group storming into the monastery. Well, first he knocked, which I thought was interesting. That's what I was talking about. It seems like he has some bit of a code. He wasn't just going to storm in and just start killing everybody needlessly. But he wanted to know where was the guy who killed his brother. And unfortunately, all signs pointed back to the monastery due to these pamphlets and flyers, I guess, that Isabel would post around the city, the town, or whatever like that. So they get in there, and they waste no time basically getting straight into it. And that dumb boy, I know he's a kid and so forth, and clearly he's not street savvy. He's very little, I guess, probably outside common sense to the world. But basically, he was told to stay in that room and be quiet. And what does he do? He starts moving around. So, of course, Codron and his men think that, the dude's probably in the room. And anyways, it just escalates from there. And I will admit, it was kind of cool seeing the nuns grab their, battle weapons and axes and arrows and so forth and try to take these guys on. I mean, kudos, ladies. I mean, you did what you could, and you took out several of them. But unfortunately, they all got wiped. They all got killed. And I guess that's where basically now Daryl feels like he's tied in now. He's invested in this kid and Isabel and their story or whatever. So now he's going to basically agree to take him to Paris. And they're going to probably see some crazy stuff along the way. So there's that. There's a lot of things going on in this episode. This relationship that's trying to build between Daryl, a little bit of trust with Isabel. And then that trust starts to fade a little bit as, there seems like there might be another ulterior motive involved, and there kind of is. I mean, it's not a sinister one as far as we can tell. There's a young boy who's been living with these nuns for quite some time. I think his parents were killed, and they basically took him in and so forth. And they think that this kid is going to be the next Messiah, if you will. I mean, basically he's going to bring humanity together. I mean, quite the prophecy and so forth. And furthermore, Daryl is the man who I guess this kid drew a few weeks prior to, that a man would wash up on the ocean, and he actually drew a picture of it, and this man would lead this boy, I guess, to his destiny, which is somewhere in Paris, which sounds, by the way, a terrible idea. I mean, Paris, you're talking one of the most populated centers probably, on that coast or whatever. Right now they're just in a small, outlying town. You could tell when Daryl was walking through the lands and so forth. So anyways, obviously things are going to get pretty crazy as they move towards Paris. 5 episodes to go as we get into it. Overall, I think the story is interesting, I guess. It's just a different perspective on it all. Some are saying, it's not Walking Dead, but that's a good thing. But it kind of is and it kind of isn't. I mean, Daryl is one of our main characters. We want to see him do good. We want to see him survive. He gets out of a lot of situations for sure, but he's definitely caught himself into another pickle. This one, because now this guy, Codron, is going to be following him and obviously probably trying to kill him. And I'm sure he has more henchmen ready at his bidding. So we'll see where that goes. And also Crazy Lady on the ship container, which I'll get her name for next time, whatever. But apparently they're up to some other stuff too. So how this all plays in and how are they going to work all this into just 6 short 40 to 45 minute episodes? These are fine questions for sure. But I hope you guys enjoy this small little review and kind of talk about Daryl Dixon episode 1. Make sure to come back out. I will try to keep up. I got to be honest, I'm going on vacation in about 3 or 4 days, so I'm going to be out of action for about an episode and a half. But I will make sure to come back and recap episode 2 and 3, and we'll see if this show is worth sticking in with, and maybe if they're going to try and do a season 2. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the episode. Are you feeling it? Are you glad to see Daryl back in action? Although the story seems a little crazy that he would make it all the way across the Atlantic. What I want to know is, how did he get onto the ship? How did he get on the ship? Why was he on the ship? And then what caused him to be thrown overboard? Or, I think he ended up killing several of the people on the ship. So obviously some shenanigans went down. But what led him to there? What are these bad choices? Are they going to show us flashbacks? Or are we just going to have to kind of put the story together from these little sentences and things that Daryl gave, which isn't much. And I hope they don't go that route. I hope they actually take the time to give us a solid background and what Daryl's been up to, because he's clearly trying to look for Rick, as he promised Judith and probably Michonne too. So anyways, I guess that's it for me and my rant. So take care, everybody, and I will catch you guys at the next review. See ya.